when the first explosion went off, we weren't looking out the window and we heard it, and it rattled the building, and it was extremely loud. It was, almost immediately apparent that it was something bad. And then as we went to make our way to the window, another explosion went off right below our hotel, right in the intersection. And, our initial reaction, my wife's especially, was to, immediately get out of the building and try to get away from the area. We weren't actually allowed to do that. We got down to the lobby and we turned around and we went back up to the room. We saw two very major casualties right out in the middle of the intersection there where the second explosion happened. And it was surreal. I mean, there were people running almost entirely all running the opposite direction from the explosion, which I think is pretty natural, but just an amazing scene. There's so many emergency vehicles and people already there on hand for the race, and they immediately went into emergency mode, and it changed everything that was happening down there from, basic sort of sense of euphoria, or at least a celebration, to kind of a panicked, very high-intensity situation. It was shocking. It was really an amazing thing to be close to it, and to somebody just asked me, so you were only just very close to actually being right in the middle of it. And I was thinking to myself, not really, but I guess in the scope of things, I sure was, just a couple hundred feet away from a bomb going off. That's close enough for me, I think. I guess personally, I found it interesting. It looks very much like a terrorist attack to me, and whether that's domestic, international, doesn't really matter. It's just, very deliberate. I don't get a sense that the entire city is in danger, but it sure feels pretty random after the marathon, where to go from here. I still can hear sirens all around the city in a really pretty big perimeter, probably a 5-mile radius. Sirens and emergency vehicles racing up and down the street.
It sounds like you don't feel safe yet, do you?
I don't think so. No, it's hard to feel safe when something like that happens. Well, I think it's just the juxtaposition of the two things. You're celebrating, and it wasn't as if we were in a war zone or in sort of implicitly dangerous area. We were at almost the opposite of that. I guess any big event is maybe a potential dangerous area, but it wasn't as if that was anything we would be thinking. So to have something like that happen, you just can't really make sense of it, because then you start to think, well, who and why and what's the pattern, and as very much civilians, you don't really have any power or control over what's happening. It's not a novel. We're just being told where to go, and after they tell you where to go, they don't give you much more information, and it's very hard to get any information. So I think, at this moment, we feel pretty safe. We're in a pretty kind of just sort of, row house, residentially sort of neighborhood, just probably about 10 blocks from where everything happened.
How did you get there again?
We walked. We actually were evacuated, and the extent of the instructions we got from the evacuation were to turn right and keep going. So we walked several blocks, and then we found ourselves still standing on in the median of this very busy street. And there was just so many people and vehicles, we just kind of kept walking until we kind of got out of that area. And we walked a little more, sat down. We were sitting there trying to figure out what to do, and that's when this Boston resident, Larry, came up and asked us, I guess essentially how we were doing, and within minutes, why don't you come back, to my place and at least get out off the street for a little bit. And I can see people walking around outside both directions. I don't think there's such a high concentration of non-Bostonians walking around right now. I'm not sure anybody really knows where they're going.
Wow.
I mean, it's just it's a great tragedy, and it puts things in perspective, I think, for a lot of people. I know that there's going to be people that are feeling not safe after this, and I think that's probably something we should, as Americans, we should all address it. We should all be vigilant and be aware that this type of thing can happen. But I think right now we're thankful that there weren't more casualties. I mean, there was enough, obviously, and we're thankful that everybody that was in our party is safe, and we're just happy that we were able to not be part of that portion of the story. We just came and ran, and we're luckily outside of the rest of it. It's a great tragedy. It's very devastating.